My child, before you listen to anything else, stop for a moment and breathe. Because this message is not an accident. You did not arrive here by coincidence. Heaven has seen the exhaustion in your soul. Heaven has heard the prayers you whispered when nobody else was around. And tonight, I need you to listen carefully, because what happened after that final prayer was not ordinary. It was the moment everything shifted. You remember that night, don't you? The night you almost gave up completely. The night your heart felt too tired to keep hoping. You had prayed so many times before that moment. So many tears. So many desperate words. So many sleepless nights asking me why nothing seemed to change. You kept waiting for an answer that never seemed to come. You kept looking for a sign, for movement, for something that would tell you I was still listening. But all you heard was silence. Heavy silence. Painful silence. And slowly, that silence began to break something inside of you. My child, there are prayers that rise from routine, and then there are prayers that rise from the deepest part of a broken soul. That last prayer of yours was different. It did not come from pride anymore. It did not come from performance. It came from complete surrender. You were no longer trying to sound strong. You were no longer pretending you had faith all figured out. You simply came to me exhausted. Empty. Fragile. Honest. And heaven heard every word. I saw the trembling in your spirit. I saw the tears you wiped away before anyone could notice them. I saw the moment you sat in silence after praying, wondering if anyone was truly there. And my child. I was there. I had always been there. Even when you thought I was distant. Even when your circumstances convinced you nothing was changing. Even when your heart grew tired from carrying disappointment after disappointment. I never left your side. But tonight I need you to understand something deeper. The delay was not abandonment. The silence was not rejection. Something was happening beneath the surface that you could not yet see. Because while you were praying for me to change your situation, I was changing something inside of you. First. And that transformation mattered more than you realize. You thought you were waiting on me, but heaven was waiting on the moment your soul finally released its grip on fear, control, and desperation. That final prayer changed everything because it was the first time you truly let go. The first time you stopped trying to force doors open. The first time you stopped pretending to be okay. The first time your heart completely collapsed into my hands and whispered, God. I cannot carry this anymore. My child, there is something sacred about the moment a soul reaches the end of itself. Because when human strength finally runs out, my power begins to move freely. And that is why heaven responded instantly. Not because I suddenly started caring about you. I have always cared. Not because I suddenly noticed your pain. I have always seen it. But because something inside of you finally aligned with the deeper work I was doing in your spirit. That prayer broke chains you could not see. It shattered walls built from years of fear and disappointment. It opened places inside your heart that pain had locked shut for far too long. And even now, as you listen to my voice, you can feel it, can't you? Something is shifting. Something deep. Something holy. You are not the same person who first entered this season of suffering. The nights that almost destroyed you also deepened you. The silence that nearly broke your faith also taught your soul how to lean on me differently. The waiting that exhausted you also purified your heart from things that could never truly sustain you. My child, listen closely now. The prayer you thought was your breaking point became heaven's turning point. The moment you thought everything was ending was the exact moment I began moving things into place. Angels were already being released before your tears even touched the ground. Doors were already shifting in the unseen. Chains were already weakening around your future. Because I heard that final prayer not as defeat, but as surrender. And surrender is where transformation begins. So do not fear the version of yourself that emerged from this pain. Do not mourn the person you used to be. That old Version of you could not carry where I am taking you next. The suffering changed you, yes, but it also prepared you. It taught you discernment. It taught you depth. It taught you dependence on me in ways comfort never could. And now, my child. Heaven is responding. Not tomorrow. Not someday far away. But now. Because the prayer you thought was your final cry was actually the doorway into your next season. There were moments, my child, when it truly felt like your entire life was collapsing in front of your eyes. Not slowly. Not gently. But all at once. One thing after another. One disappointment after another. One heartbreak after another. And no matter how hard you tried to hold everything together, it kept slipping through your fingers like sand. You told yourself to stay strong. You told yourself this season would pass. You kept trying to smile through the exhaustion, trying to convince everyone around you that you were okay. But deep inside, something was breaking. Something was becoming unbearably tired. There is a kind of pain that comes from losing something important, but there is another kind of pain that comes from losing too many things without having enough time to heal from any of them. And that was the weight your soul had been carrying. You lost peace. You lost clarity. You lost energy. You lost the version of yourself that once believed life would turn out differently. And slowly, without even realizing it, you began surviving instead of truly living. You woke up every morning already exhausted. Not because your body lacked rest, but because your spirit had been fighting invisible battles for far too long. Some days, even the smallest tasks felt heavy. Even simple conversations drained you. Even moments that were supposed to make you happy could not fully reach the sadness hidden underneath your smile. And nobody truly saw it, did they? They saw you functioning. They saw you showing up. They saw you continuing forward. But they did not see the nights when you sat alone trying to stop your thoughts from drowning you. They did not see the quiet panic hidden behind your calm face. They did not see how many times you whispered, God, I can't do this anymore. My child. I saw all of it. I saw the moments when disappointment became so familiar that you stopped expecting good things to happen. I saw the way fear slowly wrapped around your future until hope itself started feeling dangerous. Because after enough heartbreak, people become afraid to believe again. After enough silence, people become afraid to pray again. And after enough loss, people begin protecting themselves from hope because hope feels too painful when it breaks. You started bracing yourself for disappointment before anything even happened. You started expecting people to leave before they ever did. You started preparing your heart for loss because part of you believed nothing beautiful would ever stay. And the hardest part was that you became tired of explaining your pain. Tired of trying to put invisible exhaustion into words. Tired of hearing people tell you to just have faith, while your soul felt like it was crumbling under the weight of everything it had endured. My child, there were days when your suffering became so deep that even silence felt loud. Your mind would not rest. Your heart would not settle. Memories replayed themselves over and over again. Regrets. Failures. Betrayals. Unanswered prayers. Closed doors. Broken trust. It all became one long storm inside your spirit. And there were moments when you genuinely wondered if you would ever feel whole again. You questioned yourself constantly. What is wrong with me? Why does life keep hurting this much? Why does everyone else seem to move forward while I stay stuck here? But my child, listen to me carefully now. What looked like collapse was not the end of your story. It was the dismantling of a version of your life that could no longer carry where I was taking you. Because there were things attached to your spirit that were quietly destroying you. Patterns built from fear. Relationships built from desperation. Dreams built from the need to prove your worth to others. And you held on to those things tightly because you thought losing them would destroy you. But sometimes the very things you beg me to preserve are the things suffocating your soul the most. I know it hurt when Certain doors closed. I know it shattered you when certain people walked away. I know the waiting almost convinced you that I had forgotten you. But there are moments when I allow life to shake because shaking reveals what cannot remain. There are seasons when everything unstable begins to fall apart so that your spirit can finally stand on something deeper than temporary comfort. My child, you were never being punished. You were being transformed. Even in the middle of your breakdowns, heaven was working. Even in the middle of your confusion, I was protecting you from paths that would have wounded you far more deeply later. You called it abandonment, but sometimes it was rescue. You called it delay, but sometimes it was preparation. You called it silence, but sometimes I was rebuilding your heart so deeply that words alone could not explain what I was doing. And yes, the process hurt. Because transformation often feels like loss before it feels like rebirth. The old version of you had to break. The version that constantly chased validation. The version that depended on people more than my presence. The version that tied self-worth to success, relationships, or outcomes. That version could not survive where I am leading you next. So slowly, painfully, deeply. I began stripping away everything that was built on unstable ground. And there were nights when it felt unbearable. Nights when loneliness wrapped around your chest so tightly you could barely breathe. Nights when you stared into darkness wondering if life would ever feel light again. But even there, my child, even there, I was beside you. Closer than your fear. Closer than your tears. Closer than the thoughts trying to convince you to give up. Because while your life appeared to be collapsing externally, something sacred was being rebuilt internally. Strength was being formed inside your weakness. Wisdom was being born inside your suffering. Discernment was awakening inside your disappointment. And though you could not see it yet, your spirit was becoming deeper, softer, stronger, and more alive than it had ever been before. One day you will look back at this season and realize something that will change. The way you see your entire story. The collapse was not proof that I abandoned you. The collapse was proof that I refused to let you stay trapped inside a life that no longer matched your destiny. My child, there is a kind of suffering that changes the way a person looks at life. Not because they want it to, but because pain slowly reshapes the soul when it stays too long. And you have carried pain for a very long time. Longer than most people realize. Longer than you admit out loud. There were wounds you tried to ignore, hoping time would erase them. There were nights you told yourself to stop crying, to stop overthinking, to stop feeling everything so deeply. But deep suffering does not disappear simply because someone pretends to be strong. It settles quietly into the heart. It hides behind smiles. It follows people into silent rooms and sleepless nights. And that is where you have been for so long, my child. Fighting battles nobody else could fully see. Smiling while your spirit quietly bled underneath the surface. Carrying burdens that became heavier with every passing season. There were moments when you genuinely felt like you were disappearing inside your own sadness. Moments when you looked at yourself and barely recognized the person staring back at you. The light in your eyes was dimmer. Your laughter felt farther away. Even hope began to feel fragile. Because disappointment had visited your life too many times. You kept praying. Kept believing. Kept waiting. But the silence stretched on and on until your heart became exhausted from expecting things to finally change. My child. I know there were nights when you cried so quietly because you did not want anyone to hear you breaking. I know there were moments when you sat alone replaying conversations, replaying memories, replaying losses that still haunted your soul long after everyone else had moved on. People told you to let it go. To move forward. To stay positive. But they did not understand how deep the wound really was. Some pain reaches places words cannot touch. Some heartbreak settles so deeply into the spirit that even breathing feels heavy afterward. And slowly, you began carrying sorrow. Everywhere you went. You carried it into your mornings. Into your relationships. into your prayers, into your thoughts before sleep. It became part of the atmosphere surrounding your life. You became so used to surviving pain that peace itself started feeling unfamiliar. My child, the hardest part was not even the suffering itself. The hardest part was feeling alone inside it. Feeling like nobody truly understood how tired your soul had become. There were moments when you wanted someone to simply sit beside you and say, "I see your pain." Because deep suffering creates a loneliness that words cannot fully describe. It is the loneliness of smiling while silently drowning. The loneliness of carrying grief that nobody notices because you learned how to hide it too well. The loneliness of praying every night and wondering if heaven still hears you at all. And sometimes, you stopped praying with expectation. You prayed because you did not know what else to do. Your prayers became quieter. Slower. More fragile. Some nights all you could say was, "God, please." And even that felt heavy. My child. I heard every one of those prayers. Even the broken ones. Even the angry ones. Even the exhausted whispers that barely left your lips. I heard them all. I saw the fear behind your silence. I saw the disappointment you tried to bury. I saw the way suffering slowly convinced you that maybe life would never truly feel beautiful again. You started expecting loss before joy. You started expecting rejection before love. You started expecting silence before breakthrough. Because pain repeated itself so many times that your soul began preparing for heartbreak before anything even happened. And that is what deep suffering does. It changes the way a person sees tomorrow. It teaches them to guard their heart from hope because hope has hurt them too many times before. But my child, listen to me carefully now. Your suffering did not make you weak. The fact that you are still here proves how much strength has been hidden inside you all along. You survived seasons that should have crushed you completely. You walked through darkness while carrying wounds nobody could see. There were days your mind was exhausted, your heart was exhausted, your spirit was exhausted, and still, somehow, you kept going. Even when you did not feel brave. Even when you did not feel strong. Even when you wanted to disappear from everything for a while. You kept breathing. You kept surviving. And heaven saw every silent battle you fought behind closed doors. My child, there were reasons I allowed certain things to break inside you. Not because I wanted you destroyed, but because there were parts of your soul living under chains you could not yet recognize. Chains built from fear. Chains built from dependency. Chains built from believing your worth depended on who stayed, who loved you, who chose you, or who approved of you. And suffering has a way of exposing every false foundation beneath a person's life. Pain reveals what comfort hides. Silence reveals what distraction covers. Loss reveals where the soul has placed its deepest trust. And though this process hurt more than words can explain, something sacred was happening underneath your tears. You thought you were only falling apart, but heaven was rebuilding you from the inside. Slowly. Quietly. Deeply. There were things inside your spirit that could only awaken through suffering. Compassion. Discernment. Depth. Sensitivity. Wisdom. Dependence on me. The old version of you depended on external things to feel secure. But now, after everything you have survived, your soul is learning to reach for something deeper. My presence. My peace. My voice. My love that remains even when everything else falls away. And yes, my child, there were moments when the suffering became so heavy that you wondered if you would survive emotionally. There were moments when sadness wrapped around your chest so tightly you could barely think clearly anymore. Moments when the future felt blank. Moments when you questioned your purpose, your worth, even your reason for continuing forward. But even there, even in your darkest moments, I never left you. Not once. I sat beside you in every tear-filled night. I stayed close through every panic-filled thought. I watched over you when your spirit became too tired to even ask for help properly. And when you thought you were completely alone, heaven was still holding you together in ways you could not see. My child, one day you will understand this season differently. One day you will realize the suffering did not only wound you. It transformed you. It deepened your soul. It softened your heart toward others who are hurting. It taught you how fragile life truly is. It stripped away illusions that could never sustain you. And though you would never choose this pain willingly, the person emerging from it is becoming stronger, wiser, and more spiritually alive than the person who entered it. So do not despise the tears you cried in secret. Do not hate yourself for the moments you felt weak. Do not believe the lie that your suffering made you forgotten. My child. Heaven was closest to you in the moments you felt most abandoned. And the pain that nearly broke you completely is the very place where my deepest healing is about to begin. My child, slow down for a moment now. Let your breathing soften. Let the noise around you fade into the background for just a little while. You have carried so much for so long, and tonight, you do not have to carry it alone anymore. You do not have to pretend to be strong in this moment. You do not have to hide your exhaustion from me. I already see every part of your heart. I see the tiredness behind your smile. I see the fear you rarely speak out loud. I see the sadness you keep buried beneath your daily routine. And right now, I want you to rest here with me for a moment. Let this prayer become the place where your soul finally exhales again. Pray with me slowly now. Lord, I am tired. There are parts of me that feel so heavy, and sometimes I do not even know how to explain the weight anymore. I have tried to stay strong for so long. I have tried to keep moving forward even when my heart felt broken inside. But tonight, I do not want to hide my pain from you anymore. You already see it all. You see the nights I cried quietly. You see the thoughts that keep me awake. You see the fear I carry about my future, about my life, about the things I cannot control. And Lord, sometimes I feel so exhausted from carrying everything alone. My child, keep speaking to me. Do not rush through this moment. Heaven is listening carefully to every word rising from your spirit. Lord, there were moments when I almost gave up completely. Moments when disappointment became so heavy that I stopped expecting anything good to happen anymore. I kept praying, but the silence hurt me. I kept hoping, but my heart became tired of waiting. And sometimes I wondered if you still heard me at all. But tonight, even with all my weakness, I am still here before you. I may not have perfect faith. I may not have all the answers. But I am here. And I need you now more than ever before. My child, feel my presence surrounding you even now. You are not speaking into emptiness. You are not praying alone in the dark. I have been beside you through every sleepless night, every hidden tear, every silent breakdown nobody else knew about. Continue praying now. Lord, please heal the parts of me that suffering has touched so deeply. Heal the fear that keeps telling me nothing will ever change. Heal the disappointment that made my heart afraid to hope again. Heal the loneliness that follows me even when I am surrounded by people. Heal the exhaustion buried deep inside my spirit. I do not want to carry this heaviness anymore. I do not want to live trapped inside sadness forever. Lord, please breathe peace back into my soul. My child, I am already moving within the places you thought were beyond healing. Even now, my peace is reaching into the deepest corners of your heart. The parts nobody else understands. The wounds you stopped talking about because explaining them became too painful. I am there. Keep praying with me slowly now. Lord, help me release what is no longer meant for me. The fear. The guilt. The regret. The pain I keep replaying in my mind. The people I keep grieving. The versions of my life I thought would happen but never did. Help me let go of everything that keeps my soul trapped in sorrow. And Lord, if this season changed me, let it change me into someone deeper, wiser, softer, and closer to you. Do not let my suffering be wasted. Do not let my pain turn my heart cold. Teach me how to trust you again, even after disappointment. Teach me how to breathe again without fear controlling my future. My child, rest in this moment now. Let my words settle gently over your spirit. You do not have to figure everything out tonight. You do not need all the answers right now. You only need to know this. I have not abandoned you. I never did. Even in the silence, I was holding you together. Even in the waiting, I was protecting you from things you could not yet understand. Even in your suffering, I was shaping something holy inside your spirit. Pray one more time with me now. Lord, I surrender everything into your hands tonight. The pain I cannot fix. The future I cannot control. The fear I cannot silence on my own. I surrender the tears, the confusion, the exhaustion, and the heartbreak. I surrender the pressure of trying to hold myself together all the time. And even if I still feel weak tonight, I choose to believe that you are still working in my life. I choose to believe that this story is not over. I choose to believe that healing is still possible for me. Stay close to me, Lord. Hold my heart together while it heals. And when I wake up tomorrow, let there be a little more peace inside me than there was today. Amen. My child, now listen to me carefully, because what I am about to speak into your spirit is deeper than comfort. This is not merely encouragement for your pain. This is revelation for your transformation. You have spent so much time asking me when your life would finally change, when the doors would finally open, when the heaviness would finally lift, when the waiting would finally end. But tonight I need you to understand something that heaven has been whispering over your life for a very long time. The greatest miracle was never only about changing your circumstances. The greatest miracle was always about changing you. Because before I could lead you into the next season, I had to heal the parts of your soul that were silently bleeding beneath the surface. I had to strip away the fear that kept controlling your decisions. I had to confront the insecurity that made you seek validation from people who could never define your worth. I had to break the chains of desperation that caused you to cling to things that were slowly destroying your peace. And yes, my child, the process hurt deeply. There were moments when it felt like your entire identity was collapsing. Moments when you no longer recognized the person you had become. But transformation often feels like destruction before it feels like rebirth. A seed buried beneath the ground does not understand why everything became dark before new life begins to emerge. And neither did you. You thought the darkness meant I had abandoned you. You thought the silence meant heaven had forgotten your name. But all along, something sacred was happening underneath the surface of your pain. While you were grieving what was falling apart, I was rebuilding your spirit from the inside out. You kept asking me to remove the pressure, but some pressures were shaping you into the person your destiny requires. You kept asking me to end the waiting, but some seasons of waiting were teaching your soul how to depend on me instead of temporary things. You kept asking me why certain people left your life, but they could not walk with you into the place where I am leading you next. My child, hear me clearly now. You are not who you were before this season began. The pain changed you. The silence changed you. The waiting changed you. But not in the way fear told you. You thought suffering was empty. You thought all these tears meant you were losing yourself. But heaven says otherwise. Heaven says you were being refined. Heaven says you were being awakened. Heaven says you were becoming stronger in places nobody else could see. Look at your spirit now. You are deeper than before. More discerning than before. More aware of what truly matters than before. The things that once controlled you no longer have the same power over your soul. You no longer chase empty validation the way you once did. You no longer depend entirely on people to feel whole. You no longer trust appearances the way you once did. Pain taught you to see differently. Silence taught you to listen differently. Suffering taught you to lean on me differently. And though you would never have chosen this road, my child, this road transformed you in ways comfort never could. There is a new strength rising inside you now. Not loud strength. Not prideful strength. But quiet strength. Sacred strength. The kind of strength that survives storms without needing applause from the world. You are beginning to understand that peace does not come from having perfect circumstances. Peace comes from knowing I remain with you even when everything around you shakes. And my child, that revelation changes everything. Because once a soul truly understands my presence, fear begins to lose its grip. Anxiety begins to weaken. The chains of hopelessness begin to crack apart. You are not entering your next season as the same fragile version of yourself that first entered this pain. No. You are emerging with wisdom forged through tears. Compassion forged through loneliness. Discernment forged through disappointment. Faith forged through silence. And now heaven is responding to the transformation that has taken place within you. Doors are beginning to shift in the unseen. Things that once resisted you are losing their hold. The delay is breaking. The heaviness is lifting. Not because you finally became perfect, but because surrender opened a pathway for my power to move freely through your life. My child. I know there were nights you thought your story was ending. Nights when exhaustion wrapped around your spirit so tightly you could barely breathe. Nights when you wondered if anyone truly saw your suffering. But heaven saw all of it. Every tear. Every breakdown. Every trembling prayer whispered into darkness. And none of it was wasted. Not one moment. The pain that almost broke you became the fire that purified you. The silence that nearly crushed your faith became the place where your spirit learned how to hear my voice more clearly. The collapse that frightened you became the removal of everything that could not remain in your future. And now something holy is awakening inside you. You can feel it, can't you? The old fear does not fit the same anymore. The old hopelessness does not sit in your spirit the same way anymore. Something inside you has started. Reaching for life again. Reaching for peace again. Reaching for trust again. Because deep within your soul, you know this season changed you forever. My child, do not fear the person you are becoming. Do not grieve the old version of yourself that could not survive this journey. That version was too wounded to carry your future. Too dependent on temporary things. Too afraid of losing people. Too controlled by fear of failure. But the person rising now, this new version of you, carries a deeper authority. A deeper calm. A deeper connection with heaven. You have walked through fire, and yet your spirit still breathes. You have survived darkness, and yet your heart still longs for light. You have been shaken, but you were never destroyed. Because I was holding you through every second of it all. And now hear this final truth, my child. The prayer you thought was your final cry was actually the beginning of your transformation. The breakdown you feared became the birthplace of your breakthrough. The suffering you thought would bury you became the soil where a stronger soul was formed. You are not leaving this season empty-handed. You are leaving transformed. And nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever make you the same again.